You think it's love, but it's just lust. And this is one of the most misunderstood emotional experiences in human relationships because both love and lust feel powerful, both feel intense, both feel addictive in their own ways, but they are not the same thing. In fact, confusing the two is one of the biggest reasons people end up in emotionally unstable, painful, and short lived relationships. At the beginning, it is very hard to tell the difference because both love and lust create excitement, both create attraction. Both make you think about the other person constantly. Both make you want closeness. But the foundation behind these feelings is completely different. And if you don't understand that difference, you can easily mistake physical attraction for emotional connection. Let's go deeper. Lust is primarily physical and instinctive. It is driven by attraction, chemistry, appearance, energy, and physical desire. It activates quickly and strongly. It creates urgency. It creates craving. It makes you want closeness without necessarily knowing the person deeply. Love, on the other hand, develops slowly. It is built on understanding, emotional connection, shared experiences, trust, consistency, and emotional safety. Love grows with time. Lust peaks quickly. But here is where confusion starts. Lust feels like love in the beginning because of emotional intensity. When you are physically attracted to someone, your brain releases dopamine, a chemical associated with pleasure and reward. This makes the experience feel exciting and emotionally rewarding. You start thinking about the person often. You feel drawn to them. You feel a strong urge to be close. But this is not emotional bonding yet. It is chemical attraction. Now let's understand what love actually looks like. Love is not just about attraction. It is about connection. It is about knowing someone beyond their appearance. It is about understanding their personality, their fears, their habits, their emotions, and still choosing them. Love includes emotional stability. It includes patience. It includes comfort even in silence. Love does not create constant urgency. It creates calm attachment. Lust creates excitement mixed with anxiety. Love creates peace mixed with attachment. Now let's go deeper into the psychology. When lust is dominant, your focus is mostly on physical presence. You want to see the person. You want to be near them. You think about physical closeness more than emotional depth. Conversations may feel secondary compared to attraction, but when love develops, emotional understanding becomes the center. You want to know how they feel. You care about their thoughts, their struggles, their life experiences. Physical attraction is still there, but it is not the only focus. One of the biggest signs of lust is idealization of physical traits. You focus heavily on appearance, voice, charm, or physical chemistry. You may feel intense attraction even without knowing much about the person's character. But love goes beyond appearance. Love includes acceptance of imperfections. It sees the full human being, not just the attractive parts. Now let's talk about emotional depth. Lust is often shallow in emotional depth. Conversations may revolve around attraction, flirting, excitement, or surface level topics. There is emotional intensity, but not emotional vulnerability. Love requires vulnerability. It involves sharing fears, insecurities, past experiences, dreams, and emotional truths. It creates emotional safety where both people can be real, without fear of judgment. Now let's understand another major difference. Stability. Lust is unstable in nature. It can fluctuate based on physical presence, mood, or external attraction. It can feel intense one moment and distant the next. Love is stable. It remains even when excitement decreases. It survives through routine, challenges, misunderstandings, and time. That is why many relationships based only on lust feel very intense in the beginning, but fade quickly, because intensity is not the same as stability. Now let's go deeper into attachment versus attraction. Lust creates attachment to feeling. Love creates attachment to person. In lust, you are attached to how the person makes you feel physically and emotionally in the moment. In love, you are attached to the person as a whole being, including their personality, emotions, and life. This is why lust often disappears when physical distance increases. But love remains even in distance because it is not dependent only on physical interaction. Now let's talk about emotional illusion. One of the most dangerous aspects of lust is that it creates emotional illusion. It can make you believe that deep emotional connection exists even when it hasn't fully developed. Because the intensity of attraction feels like emotional depth. But intensity is not depth. Intensity is reaction. Depth is understanding. And confusing the two leads to emotional mistakes. Now let's talk about timing. Lust usually develops quickly. It can happen in days or even moments. Love takes time to build. It requires shared experiences, emotional conversations, trust building, and consistency. So when something feels extremely intense very early, it is often lust dominating the emotional experience. Now let's understand brain chemistry. Lust is driven by dopamine and adrenaline. These chemicals create excitement, thrill, and urgency. That is why early attraction feels almost addictive. You think about the person constantly. You feel excited when they respond. You feel a rush when you see them. Love is influenced by oxytocin and long-term bonding hormones. These create emotional attachment, trust, and calmness. That is why love feels more grounded over time. So biologically, lust is fast and intense. Love is slow and stable. Now let's talk about emotional dependency. Lust can create dependency on attention and validation. You may feel emotionally high when you receive attention and low when you don't. This creates emotional ups and downs. Love creates emotional consistency. Even if communication is not constant, emotional stability remains. Now let's go deeper into expectations. In lust, expectations are often physical or idealized. You expect excitement, attraction, attention, and emotional highs. In love, expectations are realistic. You expect understanding, support, communication, and growth over time. Now let's talk about conflict. Lust struggles with conflict because it is not built on deep understanding. Small disagreements can break emotional intensity quickly because the foundation is weak. Love handles conflict better because it is built on understanding and emotional investment. Disagreements become part of growth instead of endings. Now let's understand emotional clarity. One of the biggest signs that it is lust instead of love is confusion. If you are constantly confused about where the relationship is going, how the other person feels, or what the connection really means, it is often because emotional depth has not been established yet. Love creates clarity over time. Lust creates confusion mixed with excitement. Now let's talk about fantasy versus reality. Lust often involves fantasy. You imagine scenarios, future moments, emotional highs, or ideal versions of the person. Your mind fills gaps with imagination. Love is grounded in reality. It accepts the person as they are, not as imagined. Now let's go deeper into emotional investment. Lust is often one-sided in emotional depth. One person may feel deeply attracted while the emotional understanding is still shallow. Love becomes mutual emotional investment over time. Both people contribute to emotional growth, understanding, and stability. Now let's understand why people confuse lust with love. Because both feel emotionally powerful. Both create attachment. Both make you think about the other person. And both can make you feel alive. But feeling alive is not always love. Sometimes it is just emotional stimulation. And stimulation fades when familiarity increases. Now let's talk about what happens when lust fades. When lust fades, the excitement reduces. The attraction feels less intense. And if there is no emotional foundation underneath, the connection weakens or disappears completely. But if love is present, the relationship continues growing even after initial excitement fades, because love is not dependent on constant excitement. Now let's come to emotional maturity. Emotionally mature people can distinguish between attraction and love. They do not rush into labeling feelings. They observe behavior, emotional consistency, and long-term compatibility before defining the relationship. Emotionally immature reactions often confuse intensity with meaning. Now let's understand the most important truth. Lust is not bad. Lust is natural. It is a human biological response. But it is not enough to build a lasting relationship. Love requires more than attraction. It requires emotional awareness, trust, communication, and time. When lust is mistaken for love, expectations become unrealistic and disappointment becomes inevitable. Now let's come to the final realization. You think it's love because it feels strong, exciting, and consuming. But real love is not just intensity. Real love is understanding. Real love is patience. Real love is emotional safety. Real love is stability over time. So the real difference is simple. Lust makes you crave the person. Love makes you understand the person. And when you learn to see that difference clearly, you stop confusing emotional intensity with emotional truth. And that clarity can completely change the way you experience relationships.